All right, you kids ready? We'll slide over here. So I think you guys are the only ones here for book club. I have Jennifer Kinney, our winner chicken dinner online. It's gonna be page 37, so we're covering tactics 3 and 4 today. So tactic 3 is do more with less, and that's talking about leverage, and I love that. And then 4 is probably very relevant to this time of year, is gonna be finding a motive of lead generation. So I just want to start like at the very beginning, and there's a quote here by Viktor Frankl, who, by the way, wrote this amazing book called Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah, oh, such a good book. Like, he is a Holocaust survivor. Yes. Yeah, so I would encourage you like download and listen or read that book. But his quote here is, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So, and it just made me think, because I've read his book, like, he survived and maintained a mindset of optimism while in a very desolate situation. Right?
Why people survive and other ones didn't. That's what started this question.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's really, I could tell Gary Keller's influenced by this guy, because he starts a lot of his books and a lot of the research he does on classes by asking the question, what is it? Why are some agents wildly successful and others not as much? So why are people surviving? Why are they not? So what separates the two? And it usually, everything starts with mindset, right? Whether you believe you can or can't, you're right, right? So a great foundation, I think, to start anything that you're studying or researching. So, well, let's talk about doing more with less and leverage. And so I'm just gonna move forward to page 38, and we go over back to the basics. And the basics, there are 6 core competencies of a business. And I'm just gonna read these out loud, and then I'll share a couple things I highlighted. And these are your big rocks, so we often call your 20% real estate, right? So lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments. That's one, core competency number 1 of a business. 2 is present to buyers and sellers to get agreements. These are appointments, right? 3 is show buyers and market sellers. There is a difference. 4 is write and negotiate contracts. 5 is coordinate the sale to closing. And then 6 is manage the money. And I would say maybe in that order, like there's a progression here, right? And so what I highlighted was, what are my business priorities? It comes back to these 6 core competencies. When do they need to get done? So that is what's on my schedule. Who is the best person to do them? And that's back to getting real and getting right. Like Gary talks about, get real, get right, and having an awareness around what our gifts and talents and skills are, because we may not be the best person to execute or perform a task, right? And then finally, how should they be done? So what are my business priorities? When do they need to get done? Who is the best person to do them? And finally, how should they get done? And so I just thought those were some great questions to ask around your own business. But let's talk about this for a minute. What aspects of leveraging resources, tasks, or even time stood out to you as impactful well, I guess you guys haven't necessarily read all this, but what aspects of leveraging resources, tasks, and time stand out to you most in today's real estate market and industry?
When they mentioned more staff doesn't include more productivity.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, part of this too, leverage, like the next thing I highlighted was people. So we talk about what aspects of leveraging resources, tasks, or time. I immediately, when I think of leverage, the first thing I think about is people, right? is like one person, and goes back to like why you'd want to start a team, right? I see all these globs out there, and like very few of them are real, what I call a real team. And that sounds very pointed, and I've been told not to say that by some of our vendors in our market, but nonetheless, I'm gonna say it because it's the truth. And when we talk about people as leverage, you need people when you're doing all you can do and you can do no more. And so I do think that that's your first ceiling. Is like, okay, like why hire this stuff out? I don't have the revenue or the income to justify those expenditures. The reality is you are everything. You wear many hats, you wear all the hats until you hit that first ceiling. And that's when you hit that point where I'm doing all I can do and I can do no more. Now I need to enlist the help of talented people to take me to the next level. That's the start of the team right there. So it talks about people here as leverage. And what I found interesting is people begins with you.
What'd you say?
People begin, it's the first sentence here under people. It says people begins with you.
Oh, God.
So when we talk about people as leverage, it all starts with you. And the first sentence here is people begins with you. So before you look at others, take an honest look at yourself. Are you maximizing your own productivity? Those are the first few sentences on page 39 under people. And so that reminds me of leadership. And before you can lead others, you have to first lead yourself well. And then it goes on to ask, are you maximizing your own productivity? Are you doing what matters most? Are you doing what you get paid to do? Are you doing what pays you? And then it goes on to say, as we said in tactic 1, get real, get right. We need to figure that out before we move forward with hiring people in our business. So I asked, like, what aspects of leveraging resources, tasks, and time stand out to you as being most impactful in our market? To me, I want to hear from you all. The aspect of people as leverage, getting the paperwork and the admin stuff off my plate, like entering listings or even the shuffling of paperwork to and through the title company. Harmony, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think for me too, like, it's really done. So.
Yeah.
If we go under contact for the past few years, we have been still charging the transaction fee, but just keeping it ourselves because like, oh, well, it's not a ton. It's not like.
Yeah.
So, when I was thinking about my spirit, think about it, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if we have 4, 5, 6 deals under contract and I'm doing all of it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to potentially drop the ball,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm handling possibly some of his deals, my deals with Ben after the other day, I'm like, you should consider because it doesn't really matter. It's supposed to take place, but he was
Yeah.
like, you know, it's one of those things where as I think about it, I'm like, well, if I don't have a lot, I'm okay with doing it, and yeah, the extra money in my pocket's cool too, but what is $300 really significantly do for you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do 6 deals, you do charge 351, okay, yeah, that's, you know, $18, but you're hopefully making it on the commission side where it's like, you don't really see that
Yeah.
all that much. I
Well,
definitely agree on like the leverage side of people. And me and Lori, I would say this year we decided to go through basically, me and you guys, we throw a lot of things up against the wall and it's like, let's see what sticks. And that isn't always the best way to do it. And then like, forget about things and spending money like on unnecessary, whatever.
yeah.
So we basically got down to 4 district started, and okay, we're just gonna like take it back to simple. Like, what do we know that's the thing? Let's keep doing that.
Yeah.
What are the things that we're like, you know what, we this is taking away from us going out and getting more business, so who do we talk to? And, but also, we're gonna think of like, you know what, this doesn't take up a lot of time, so we're okay with still doing that, knowing, like, okay, well, yeah, but we're still saving some money on this end, and we're just gonna do it ourselves. So like, there's certain things that I would say that you have, that we have been doing of like, going through our list of like, we don't want to do this anymore, we're leveraging it out. We're okay with doing this, so let's keep doing that. Because one of us can take on that task, or both of us, and it's not gonna be like a time consuming thing, if that makes sense.
I think it's one of the nice things too about like, I think husband-wife teams are some of the most dynamic teams out there because you're two people and two people will outwork one person every single day of the week. And you can be really effective by dividing and conquering and playing your strengths and weaknesses by covering each other. And then, you know, also you said like Noye doesn't like paperwork, and yet somebody has to do it.
Right,
So you either choose like, okay, this is just a part of the job that I don't enjoy, but I'm gonna do it because it's a job. And sometimes when you have a job, there's things that you like and don't like about it, but nonetheless, you have a job, so you just do it.
right.
But then also if you have somebody like you said, I don't mind doing the paperwork, okay, great, then absolutely Noye takes it off his plate and you do it because maybe you enjoy it more, you're better at it, you're probably better at it, right?
I just do more, I just do more like find, detail person.
Yeah, the details, right? So that's pretty amazing. Speaking of
You know what
that,
else?
what's
There's
that?
biblical passage, one fall down, the other one supports it or something. So
Yeah.
my teams, they're preparing for things they don't know are gonna happen.
Yeah. So what are some challenges that, that you face by implementing leverage and being, I guess, and doing it effectively? What are some challenges?
It takes time with you to help train that person, work that person.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid challenge. Like if you're creating a role or you're leveraging something off your plate, then you need to train them on what their standards and expectations are for how that job is done, right? So not only do you have to complete or create a complete list of everything that that person is going to do, but then you need to have standards, expectations around that, and not only show them how you want it done. So it's I, we, they. First, I'm going to do it. Then we're gonna do it together, and then if they're truly talent and they own the job and do it well, then it becomes a job that they own, right? And so then it's when you start getting your time back. So you're right, we call that the hockey puck. You always go a little like half a step backwards before you go up. Or the hockey, not puck, the hockey stick, if you will.
And as a leader like you have to go back and check, don't you, to make sure the standards are being maintained, or you?
That's where the accountability comes in. So you do regular one-on-ones with that person until they've owned the role. And the time over time, it becomes less and less. But you're measuring their performance on the job against the results. If the results aren't there, then something is not happening that should be happening. And my own assessment is everything falls on consistent lead generation and follow up. Somebody has to be committed to doing that consistently. And again, you're hiring leverage, it's really easy to get pulled out in 10 different directions away from that. And if somebody's not there, you guys ever play tag as a kid and somebody would guard the base? Right? But then if you got more people out than there are at the base, and then next thing you know, everybody's going out to find the people that haven't been tagged yet, and then you've left the base unguarded. They come back and they take over the base. I always think of like lead generation that way, like somebody's gotta be there guarding the base, which means somebody's gotta be doing the lead generation. But
We have a friend, sorry, I just gave myself the hiccups. Back home, he worked for Keller Williams. Left, didn't realize he shouldn't have left, he came back, and he just recently started his own brokerage.
oh, cool.
And we have dinner with him and his wife, and they're both two very like entrepreneurial driven people. She's a photographer, did our wedding, she got us a ton of real estate, still does wedding, and they're actually building their own wedding venue right
Oh,
now,
that's cool.
where like that's just how they work. And he said, he's very much about like leveraging
Yeah.
and He wasn't like that for a long time, because he was like, he didn't have the funds to do it.
Yeah,
But he recently hired an executive assistant, and he was like, she's literally right here, like, at my desk, we go through, like, she has it so down to like what she is supposed to do for her job. Like,
yeah,
I have it so laid out for her that there's like no miscommunication, like, this is what I need you to do for me today, this is what we're gonna do, this is what I need you to hold me accountable for, this is who you're gonna touch base with, like, he's like, but I had to figure out what I want that to look like for someone when I brought her in. And he's like, now she has it so down that he's like, she knows more about my day sometimes than I know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm able to ask her like, okay, what's on the agenda today? She's like, cool, this is who you're gonna be following up with today. You
Yeah.
have a walk, because they're building this wedding venue and they're already planning for weddings this year. And she's like, you have a walkthrough to show the wedding venue to this couple today. You have like, it's all structured to where any question he asks, she already has it. You're calling, like you said, you're calling followers.
Yeah.
These are the people that you're calling today. She
Yes.
prints off the list for him, he goes down the list, and that's it. There's certain people that she will call for him,
yeah,
but if it's like, you're following up on that personal conversation, she like,
Yeah.
you need to call today, and you need to have these done by the end of the day. And if they're not, she's like, okay, well, let's go over tomorrow, and you're adding on to the thing, and she basically has helped hold him so accountable for the fact that it's helping his business grow,
yeah,
that he doesn't have to ask any questions. Like, there's no miscommunication, like,
Yeah.
it's all there. And when he said that to us, he was like, when it gets time, he's like, we all need to start planning out and like writing down, like, okay, we hired an assistant, what do we want that to look like for us? He's like, and I promise you, that it will take some of that extra stress off of you,
mhm,
because you won't think,
yeah.
because you already have someone that's doing that for you.
Yeah, the key becomes, because now to do that at the level they're doing it and be that successful, the way you described it is he hired somebody to replace himself. And that's really what he did is I created a job. These are all the things I need to get off my plate so that I can go grow, do other things, grow the business. But in order to do that, now you're gonna hire a person who has a track record. They have the skills, the aptitude, the ability, the track record, and they're a cultural fit to be able to do that at the level that I need and expect them to do that at. And that's why I think a lot of agents get stuck and fail, because we tend to go into business with people we like first. Not like, oh, this is what I need, and I think I can mold you into that. That works none of the time. You know, it's like, and yet we're so inclined because we want to like the people that we work with.
Yeah.
Like, I can like anybody, but the reality is when it comes to leverage, you need to find somebody that's talented and highly qualified and skilled to be able to do that job. Otherwise, you're gonna get the job back.
Right.
And that happens. I've had it happen to me so many times. You just, the worst thing about a bad hire is eventually, you know, in your heart, I'm gonna get that job back and I'm gonna have to start all over again. And it's exhausting.
I think that's huge, is like, A, finding talent,
Yeah,
and then B, like not letting that, like letting them hold you accountable, like giving them permission to hold you accountable.
yeah,
Because I saw this done at a super high level when I was in there, and we, you and I talked about that, is
Yeah.
that like, if you just like gave them permission to like be the boss, and so then it would just like, and not only that, but then just like our compensation model was like, well, the more money you make, the more money I make. So like, how am I gonna push you to do your tax for both?
yeah,
But yeah, very much similar, like, okay, these are the places you're going, these are the people that you need to call. Yeah, I just think that, and like you said, not going into business necessarily with people that you like, because we butted heads more often than not,
Yeah.
but we work well together.
yeah. There's a mutual respect there, right?
Yeah.
And you have, and I think that's more important. Go hang out with your friends after 5 p.m. You know, the way we, you know, and that can be coworkers too, but we have a job to do first. And then let's go have some fun. And I think some people just have a hard time separating that. But in order, I mean, we're all business owners, and I think in order to build a business worth owning, you have to, if you're not thinking that way, you have to start thinking. That's good stuff. Gary mentions the concept of finding your unique ability and delegating the rest. We just talked about this. So how have you identified your unique abilities in real estate, and how did that influence your approach to delegation? Ooh, anybody have any thoughts on that? I have some. I think it starts like everybody should do a DISC personality profile test. You should do a KPA. And then don't verify with yourself, like have your team leader, have your OP, or if you're in productivity coaching, have your PC coach, do a KPA. And then even like recently, when we were hiring Angie, we did the DISC. And just because you may not be totally aware of, they even have another one called Strength Finders that will identify your key strengths, and then also will expose some of your opportunities for growth, or AKA weaknesses, right? And we all have them. So I think that's a really good place to start. And I don't say I'm a junkie on those things. I just remember like doing my first DISC personality profile, I guess, assessment. I hate calling them quizzes because everybody thinks it's a test. And we're all a little crazy, so let's get over it, right? Yeah, so, but it's a behavioral assessment, and it's just like, how are you naturally wired, or what are you naturally inclined to do if you're put in an environment, a situation where you have to make choices and decisions, and like, how are you going to engage and interact is really what it tells us. And so I think that's a really good place to start. And then obviously, like as a kid, you just don't know what you don't know, but over time, you can, if you're somebody that has an awareness and you do self-reflection, you can look back over your life and see, oh, there is a track record, there is a pattern here for the way I behave or the way I interact. And I think that's part of it. That's integral in finding out, and it's just really getting to know thyself, like you need to know yourself, so that, hey, the stuff I'm not good at, I'm probably never going to be good at, or I'm going to dread it. And at the end of the day, we should look forward to going to work, or we should want to put ourselves in an environment where we're thriving. And part of that's recognizing what we're good at and what we're not good at, and then you delegate the things that you're not good at or aren't making you money. And that can even be, I've seen agents that, like Rocky Verderamo is killing it this year. And I've been on him for 3 years that you need to be more intentional about time blocking and doing lead generation to reach out to your sphere. And like, I realized after several conversations and months that he wasn't gonna do it. It's like, he'll talk. I mean, if you get him on, if you've ever talked to a guy, it's usually a 30 to 60 minute conversation. But when you're doing lead gen prospecting, that's not really effective either, right? So great social, personable guy, he just has a hard time picking up the phone, and like, I gotta make 20 contacts today, so he hired an ISA, and the ISA is making a lot of those calls for him, but they set it up in such a way that the guy introduces himself, he's like, hey, this is so-and-so, and I'm calling from Rocky Verderano's office. Rocky wanted me to reach out to you and check on this or check on that, and they have notes from all the past conversations. So now Rocky's able to touch more people by delegating that, leveraging that out, and he's seen that guy setting appointments for him. So we just met with Rocky a couple weeks ago, and I went to his office and I saw his whiteboard up there. He worked with lectures, so I think you guys probably have a whiteboard, black tape on it, and you have your pipeline of buyers and your listings, and then you have your little checklist along the way. We did the same thing. Yeah. So Rocky's old school. He's doing the whiteboards up there. He has four of them. He has his goals, and then he has his people he's prospecting to, and then he has his buyers and sellers. He actually had four of them. And I was really impressed with that, but because he goes in his office every day, and that's what he looks at, and that's what keeps him focused. And he's like, oh, I have all this work today. I got to check in with these people. So it's that visual reminder. You can do it. I know I did go to Brasher's office when they were doing it in his house. And him and Emma were up in off of what road is that? South Branch. They live in that villa community, you know what I'm talking about. They've since sold and moved, but It was off of Covington Road, off of Covington and Scott, it's like that little
Yeah.
village behind there, really nice villas. But, I went into his office one day, and, he took me up there, and he had the screen up there with the Excel spreadsheet. So
Yeah.
basically, he took the same thing that we were doing 15 years ago, and he just put it in a digital format so that you pull it, it's always there, it's always like real time, like that, which is really smart.
Do you feel that that's a good, like, having an ISA to make calls to your sphere? Do you like?
Oh, yeah,
Is
if
he
it's the
like,
right person, yeah,
okay, cause
I
I
mean,
guess it's one of the things I would wonder, like. I'm kind of the same way, it's not because I don't wanna talk to those people, I think my biggest thing is like. Are certain people I know, the conversation will be really easy, and then I have certain people where I'm like, oh, they might think I'm bothering them, and then like, I think I just caught myself out, cause I'm not a big on the phone person.
yeah,
I feel like when I get on the phone, I ramble accidentally,
mm,
like, you know, like, it'll just like, I just don't know where to cut myself off.
yeah. Yeah, I think, and kind of a recent aha I've had around that is like, we're using YLOPO, and I have Raya, which is the AI chatbot in there.
Yeah,
And I would have said no, like, pick up the phone and just call them.
yeah,
And I might talk to 5 people, but my aha from that is the scalability of having an ISA. Like Raya, it's actually Julie, my virtual Julie is, engaging with a lot more people than I am.
yeah,
And so when we send out the valuation offering, or we send out the listing, updates, or we send out our newsletter, anytime somebody clicks on a link and that drives them back to the website, we know it. And then Julie or Raya will begin to engage with them based on that activity.
okay,
And so I would remember to send all those texts, because it's via text.
yeah,
But then I get notified when they reply to a text. Now, the other interesting thing is sometimes Julie sends them 7, 8, 9 texts before we get a response. I would have given up at 3 or 4, right?
it's just a lot like. I mean, it's like a lot of the other platforms you can go off of, whether
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
Zoom calendar.
Yeah, the reality is you have to make the calls consistently, and you may have to make 7, 8, 9 calls, leaving messages before they reply to you. And I would have been skeptical of that if I weren't seeing it happen now,
Gotcha,
you know, but also I just know from being in office, early on with Thrasher for a year, where we make calls every day, we prospected. And I would want to throw in the towel, I call them again, like, just call them, just call them, just call them, just call them. And he was right, because eventually there would be a conversation, or there would be a response. Now, it might be go F off, but that, hey, they finally responded,
Yeah.
right?
and I think the biggest thing is like, it's just, we talked a lot when we had dinner with our friend about like, you know, like just limiting, just like you always say, like your limiting mindset
Yeah.
of like, what is something that's actually this facts, or you're just telling yourself that it's this way, but it's actually not, like.
Yeah.
When I was there for a speaker, too, like, you're talking about calling your sphere, like, guess what? If they think you're bothered, they're not gonna answer.
That's true.
Yeah,
So like, you can have the fear all day long, like, oh, is it gonna be weird, or they, it's like, if they answer, it's not gonna be weird.
Right,
So,
yeah,
yeah, that's true. I think that's the main thing of like, I think about it, and even too, like, outside of my sphere, the people that come in and are like strong people, I'm always like, okay, gotta just call them if they're ready, and like, there was one lady, while we were on vacation, we were just going through past people and making sure like we hadn't dropped the ball on anybody, and there was this lady that had asked for us to mail our relocation guide, she wanted it like in paper format, which
Yeah.
I thought was kind of weird, but it's like, okay. So Noye had told her he was gonna mail it, and he's like, I never mailed it. And I was like, well, crap. And so literally, I just went into my room, well, so I took my room, but I went in there and I sat down on my bed and I pulled out my notepad and I called. Her husband answered, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty cool, because she's here, and had an amazing conversation. And she pretty much was like, no, we're going to move to Portland, or in New York, again, relocation people, about 72.
yeah,
They're like, no, we're going to move. our house is gonna go active probably in March. And I of course was like, do you have an agent there? And they're like, yeah, no, we already have somebody, but thank you so much for asking. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get you that relocation guide in the mail as soon as we get back to Fort Wayne, and I'm also gonna send some extra information along with that. But, you know, let me know when you guys get it.
Yeah.
I made sure I had her husband's name, phone number, email, double check that I had the right phone number for her, email for her, but took down the ages of her kids, like, all these things. And then went to the Visit Fort Wayne Center, got a little packet, with, like, all the information about Fort Wayne, with that, along with our relocation guide. Send it off, text her, said, hey, just put it in the mail, let me know when you get it. She texted me yesterday, she's like, thank you so much for all this information, I'm really excited to go for it. And I was like, I don't know, so weird, like,
Yeah,
95% of the time, people are gonna like engage in the conversation a little bit. Now, again, if they get like, well, you know, oh, I was just looking, and they might hang up or whatever, it's like, yeah, but like, more than likely, people are gonna engage, because they can say they were just looking, which is fine, but they know that they clicked on something. That's gonna put their
what's bringing them to Fort Wayne?
Well, prices, just living in Hoover is expensive.
Okay, so not a job or family.
Well, she works remotely. Well, a lot of their family moved away, which I did put that in there as well. She's like, they all left us, we're by ourselves. And a lot of her family moved closer to here, like surrounding. areas.
Midwest.
Yeah, so, monetarily, this just made the most sense. She
Yeah.
works from home. And then they obviously like, they looked at his school district, different places, they helped that school district. And then he works for, like, he's like a social worker, CES kind of, so,
Cool.
but yeah, so I mean, it was a good conversation.
And that started off as a YouTube lead from your community videos.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
so
Love it.
I think that's what we kind of shoot, like, most of the time.
Well, let's
Not
shift.
bigger things, yeah.
Let's shift to tactic 4, which is finding the motivated in lead generation, which is kind of what we're already talking about, right? So, I love how this chapter starts off with a quote from Jonathan Winters: "If your ship doesn't come in, swim out to it." And that's the market we're in, right? We're in this market where, there's still no inventory. As a matter of fact, I pulled comps for somebody yesterday that lives in Mateo Valley. They want to know what their home's worth. And all I could pull, like there was really nothing, because they're on a ranch on a slab in Mateo, and there's a lot of basements there. But there's nothing that had sold, like there's like 3,600 square feet in the last 12 months. So then I went out, that's Leo. So then I went out to Leo, then I went out to Cedar Creek Township even further. And I go back 12 months and I find 24 comps, but guess what they all were? New construction.
Oh,
There's no existing. That's a challenge, because guess what? The finding the motivated is more challenging in this market. They do exist, but generally speaking, most sellers' motivation is low. Why? And it's why my motivation is low to sell.
don't have to move.
Well, yeah,
My interest rate is 2.685 or 675.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly, same. So what does that do to your motivation? Lowers it, right? Because, and I still would move for the right house, knowing that I'm gonna get a higher interest rate, and chances of me finding some assumable mortgage is gonna be slim to none, right? But, so there's that, and on the buyer side, what's going on with the motivation of buyers in today's market?
also, because interest rates are high.
Well,
So
for them, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Interest rates are high, and I saw Scott Pressler's interview, and then of course some guy chimes in, he's like, well, I'm gonna wait for rates to come back down to 3, and like, I saw this fight ensuing in the chat online between Scott. Scott was trying to educate him, and he was like, "Yeah, typical realtor, just trying to get a sale," just like the comments, and I was just like, but that's the mindset and perception of a lot of uneducated buyers in today's market, is they think that 3 is normal. They think that 2, 3, and 4 is normal. It's not. If you go over the 40-year historical average, it's still around 8%, right? It might be slightly below that, but nonetheless, we're at 6.3, and we'll, optimistically speaking, we should and probably will hit 5s this year. But those people that are waiting for 4 and 3 to come back, like 4 is possible. And here's the thing, like, I don't wanna say it's impossible, because when I got in the business, rates were 4.75. And I said for 10 years, like, oh, they can't get any lower, now's a great time to buy, they can't get any lower. And I just looked consistently, just looked like a liar, but I was again going over that, the 40-year historical average, from then, you know, and 4.75 back in 2008, 2009 was really
I mean, you didn't predict the pandemic.
unprecedented. I did not predict the pandemic.
You know what, the public gets locked into the interest rate,
Yeah,
but they're not locked in
Yeah.
on programs that are available.
right,
Down payment, they don't know anything about that.
right. So let's talk about moving past our myths. I'm gonna read from you an excerpt here. And it's titled Moving Past Our Myths, and I'm on page 51 if you're following along. Let's face the facts, lead generating to potential, to find potential customers just might not be your favorite business subject. We kind of talked about this, right? If you're like most, it probably isn't why you got into real estate, and it isn't something that gets you excited to go to work every day to do. The truth is, however, is that you got into 2 businesses. You got into the helping people with the real estate needs business, and you got into the lead generating business, right? Truth bomb. And so I just found that very interesting, because I think a lot of people get into real estate not realizing that, and none of us like to be called a salesperson, but we are. I prefer sales consultants, right? I'm a guide. Let me be the Sam to your Frodo, right?
There you go.
There you go. Everybody needs a guide. But what I love about this is there's 3 steps here that they recommend for lead generating. There's 3 things that need to happen. Step 1 is stop doing what doesn't work. Stop doing what doesn't work, right? So what isn't working for you right now? What are you doing right now that isn't working for you when it comes to generating leads in business?
We've stopped doing it so much since, but, this will be interesting because this is, most of our business, but social media. We pressed hard, for social media last year,
Yeah,
and not a day failed.
yeah. Yeah, but you know what? MREAs, when it was written, taught lead generation was marketing based and prospecting enhanced. And then they learned right after the book came out, because the book was written in 05, 06, and the market crashed 07, 08. And then they wrote Shift in 08. But what they realized is those who not only survived but were thriving in the shifted market, they had flipped it. They had made prospecting the base of their lead generation plan, and then they made it marketing enhanced. And I think even today, like, these agents get in the business and you see social media posts, that's marketing. And the really cool thing about that is you post it, it's there forever, right? So you might get some trickle effects or the ripples of the waves over time. Your YouTube videos, it's in perpetuity, it's there forever. You put it out there and you might get a lead a year, 2 years from now, somebody watching your video on 5 reasons people are moving to Fort Wayne, right?
Very different depending on like, if you say social media, and like, I think it depends on the social media that you're doing. Cause like, for me, like, I can make a canned post on my Instagram, or like a tips for, you know, the winter, whatever, and I might get 5 or 6 likes.
Yeah.
But I think, and that my Instagram might not bring me a lot. But we have noticed that more so, it's like, if they can actually see you talk about it, is what seems to bring people back. So they might not say anything on like your first reel, for Says that you're like, oh, this is this is the breakdown of the lending process. Like very simple, doesn't have to be a long drawn out video, but it's a full, 3-minute video, on, like, these are step-by-step process of lender. If you wanna get more in-depth information, reach out to us, we'll get you a direct contact. Oh my God, are you okay?
I'm good. Yeah.
I was like, all I thought was we have to take,
airplane jump rope.
we have to take Eric to the hospital because he smacked his face on the.
It was close.
But like, and then it's like, whenever we're able to say, if you're more, if you want more in-depth information, we can, let's get you a direct contact with our lenders.
Yeah.
Give us a call at.
Yeah.
Videos like that, we've noticed brings in more people than just like something that they want.
Yeah.
Because I think when
Call
they,
to action.
yes, and they hear it, and it's a little bit different, so like, oh, this person actually like, you can go to any website and figure out the process of it, how to get it. But if someone hears you as an agent talking about it, and maybe even giving a little bit more details, I think that's different. And they're like, well, I can go to any website, and figure out this list that this person just typed up on Canva and posted. You know what I mean?
You're engaging multiple senses.
Right. Yeah, and the same thing with our YouTube, like. There's only a handful of people that optimize YouTube. Lovin, as a person who's great. Does YouTube channel. We had to sit down with Jake. He has not closed a single transaction. Thing is, you watch Jake's videos, he only talks about live certain topics. He'll do a lot of topics on like, oh, great places to eat in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
There are not many people that are going on YouTube to find out where to eat in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
They're looking at YouTube because they wanna know more.
Or get trained about something.
Yeah, it's usually more like, okay, well, I'm considering moving to Fort Wayne. But I'm not considering moving to Fort Wayne because I wanna know where the best tacos are.
Yeah.
I'm considering moving to Fort Wayne because I wanna know some of the top-notch neighborhoods that maybe, have, are really great for 4-bedroom. Like, I'm looking for 4-bedroom, where are the neighborhoods at? Yeah, yeah, like, oh, I like old historic home, where am I looking? What's the best neighborhood to look at? My job, I'm giving a job at Sweetwater Sound, but I only wanna have a 10-minute commute. Where's the closest place? Like, things like that, like, they're not looking for like, I mean, and you can throw in those videos in there, because they're fun videos,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it, but even like, and you can talk about like some of the new, like the newer places that are getting built, like, the video talking about like electric works, which one of the things I heard that saying is like, because of electric works, more job opportunities are happening. They're, making improvements in the downtown area, they're trying to do, so it's like, we always bring it back to like, but why are people actually watching videos? And what are people going on YouTube for? Most of the time,
Yeah.
and it's usually because they're either trying to figure out how to fix a toilet by themselves, or they're wanting to know, like, they're wanting to find out from people that are already here and know
Yeah.
the area on a deeper level, not what they're.
So your message matters, right?
Yes,
I want, your homework is read tactic 4, because it does a deep dive into mofers. And so mofers make offer for immediate response, and there's direct and indirect mofers. So a direct mofer would prompt somebody to reach out to you right now because you made an offer for immediate response and they're willing to buy or sell. Okay, so example that would be a seller. Okay, I have a flexible commission menu, you choose the commission. And that's it. So now I'm curious, I can reach out to Frankie because I want to hear more about these commission menus because I'm a motivated seller, just getting my home on the market. And I don't want to pay a commission, right? So that would be an example of a direct offer. Now, indirect would be your relocation guide. You're not gonna sign a contract with me by giving this guide, but I'm giving you an item of value. So it's indirect offer. Usually it's a guide or a pamphlet or some information they want and need because they're reaching out to you to get that. And by adding value to them, the opportunity for you is maybe down the road, if they move here, or if you build that relationship with them, once you give that to them, then you'll get an opportunity to help them buy or sell, right? And so they talk about this chapter, how important the message matters. And so message is always going to be influenced by the motivation of those buyers and sellers in the market. So let's wrap up with this. Let's talk about what's lowering the motivation and what's driving the motivation of buyers and sellers in today's market. So I immediately wrote down, I have a low interest rate, because we talked about that. The buyers, like, rates are too high. So that's influencing and drawing down the motivation of people. But let's talk about what is motivating sellers and buyers in today's market to get out of the marketplace and to transact.
Like, for sellers, we're still getting a lot of money. I mean, even with higher interest rates, we're still getting top dollar.
Okay, so net proceeds or top dollar, you can pay off the, oh, that's,
Or you wanna talk about what's decreasing or
I
increasing?
think that's either.
Okay,
Getting
I,
top dollar.
The sellers are afraid they're gonna spend it on.
That can be decreased down here because they're paying top dollar, right?
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I think a lot of the things that we could say could go either way. I mean, I think for one downside, I think for sellers is like, you hear a lot of not only, you know, like them being able to find something that fits their needs. Like a lot of sellers don't sell, because yeah, 'cause they're also a buyer. If they sell, they turn into a buyer. So then they're like, well, what if I can't find something that like, it doesn't fit my needs? So like, I'm good, cause maybe they're like, I have too much house space. Like, maybe they have a 4-bedroom house and they don't have, the 2 of the kids have moved out or whatever. And they're like, oh, I wanna downsize, but then at the same time, they're like, well, if I downsize, I don't wanna risk not finding what is gonna work better for me now, and then like being part of the bidding war, because maybe because everybody's still looking for a 3-2. I mean, that's the house that everyone, for first-time home buyers are looking for, and then when you're not a first-time home buyer, like selling, you're downsizing, you're probably looking for like a 3-2. So that's what I've heard from sellers, like, what about me? And then I think on the upside, for both sellers and buyers, their motivation is, I guess this could be a positive, but like life changes, maybe? I guess it could be a negative or a positive, but.
I want to get to you guys, but the life events that
Yeah.
drive people to have to make those decisions, that's motivation. So, let's get a little more granular, because I want you guys to take a picture of this, because this is gonna be your messaging, you're solving problems. So motivation is, hey, we're solving the problems. And this is back to, like, I talk about real estate being really simple. We build relationships, we solve problems, and then we gotta have a problem. So let's get a little more granular on these life events you just mentioned. So what would be some life events that would be having kids? Okay, so that's a good thing, right? Right, and they might need a bigger home.
Right.
Or if you're just a buyer and, you know, I mean, they're selling because they need a bigger home, they're buying because they have, it's, that's for both.
Yeah.
More room so we can split the size.
As kids. This could be like having more kids.
Or having less kids.
Yeah.
Like it's,
Yeah, having less kids, like
yeah,
One of my buyers said.
having no more kids or sort of shit.
One. Yeah. So.
That's empty.
yeah, that's true.
There you go.
And by the way, for them to drop and sell, that's also why they're buying. What else?
Career change.
Career change, yeah, that's always a big one. Reload for buyer, right? Job offer. Career. Really yoga.
There you go. Again, let's not take it off.
I think this is so key, because right now, and you mentioned Scott's video, which I haven't watched, but I'm really interested in what he says on it too, because you really do have to get to the necessities, right? Like,
Yes.
this market, we are out of the, oh, we just wanna move because
Yeah.
we can and it's fun,
Yeah.
it'll be beneficial, and out and into, we have to buy something or we have to sell. Like, it's not just a fun little thing anymore. Which is interesting.
Expired inside, by the way.
I was gonna say that at some point, but that's one way to put it, I guess. Oh, gosh.
That's a media face. So expired or passed, and then unfortunately, there's all the stuff like, seller, job loss,
Yeah.
divorce. Divorce can also be less than fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting married,
Very.
or divorce, like I got divorced, now I gotta buy my
Right.
house, so,
That's always like such a heavy thing.
yeah. So, hey, first time buyer, like a renter, they're buying, right? So I'll just put renter, and, they're gonna be first, say FHA. Alright, I've seen cash percent higher in this market. So, but my point in this, I know we've done exercises like this before, but I wanted to make a pretty comprehensive list around the motivation of sellers and buyers in today's market, and then think about what problem are we solving? And that's the message you're gonna put out there when you're marketing yourself, or creating video content, or social media, or whatever. But also, this drives your conversations. So, I can overcome any objection, like, oh man, I have a really, really low rate. Well, that's hard, that's a hard one. If you have a seller that, like for me, our home no longer meets our needs.
Mm.
You know, my boys are just like yourself, they want more. And the rooms are decent size for a 6 to 8 year old, but these are teenage boys, we got more things now, we spread out, we need a bigger home.
I was gonna add that to the list, like needs, like,
So what you said, needs?
it's like the house just doesn't work for you anymore.
Yeah, no longer meets the need.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, that's a good one. So if I saw an advertisement around solving that problem for me, you'd have my attention. And I have a long list, like, you live in a space, my laundry room is too small, my wife has taken over our walk-in closet, I want my own walk-in closet, it's like, you know, it's a long, long list.
Well, I think that's just the whole thing, right? Though, like, to say, for you, your house is something larger, it sounds like.
Yeah,
So not only are you giving,
my wife wants a pool, we can't have pools in our neighborhood, there's just that, I have a long list.
right,
Reasons why I this sell.
so like not only you are meeting, you're getting rid of your low interest rate, now then you have to buy.
And I'm okay with that, but I'm not excited about it.
Right. But
So-
you're buying at a higher price point because you need a bigger house. You're buying at a higher, in quotes, than normal price point still, just because that's our market. And you're getting. It's just like logistically, I think you lower and lower and lower your pool people that they can afford.
Yeah, well, even now, like, here's the other thing that's not exciting to me about this, is I have a low interest rate, and had we made a move 4 years ago, when I could have bought at
Yeah.
3 my purchasing power is now diminished.
Right,
Like, if I look at the difference in payment at 6.3% versus 3.5%, it's a lot. It's like several $100,000.
Yeah.
And that doesn't excite me, because I want the same house. I
right,
don't want that house at today's payment. I want that house at the payment it would have been 4 years ago.
right, right.
So that to me is just like, it's like one of those moments where you kick yourself.
So like, with that,
Yeah,
I wanna ask your opinion, like, I wanna ask what you would wanna hear from someone. Because, let's just say me and you were in a conversation, obviously, we were like, well, I don't wanna buy this house. I know I need to buy a house, because my house isn't working, but I also don't wanna buy a house because it's where my interest rate's at. How do you tell someone? What would you wanna hear from me to say, to again, solve the problem of like, well, hey, I completely understand what you're saying, but unfortunately,
yeah,
rates are more than likely, and then I can't tell the future, more than likely never gonna get down to 3%.
yeah,
But your house is never going to meet your needs.
yeah.
At this point, until you're getting that, like, where's
So-
your at?
I would strip away price, interest rate, payment, I would eliminate all that, that's really your.
Okay.
Let's talk about, let's dream a little bit. I like to cast the vision, so this is how I would approach the client. Tell me about, let's dream a little bit, I want you to tell me about your dream.
Yeah.
Okay, you get the perfect home and your interest rate, your price, but let's set that aside and you're thinking about that. Tell me about the home. Cause I wanna understand exactly what they want, because that rest, and this is why I would still move, because that stuff is secondary. If I get what I want, it's about. It's a self-dream, it's their dream. If you understand what their dream is, you help them get what they want, the other stuff becomes secondary.
Right.
And financially, they may not be in a position to do it. So then the conversation just goes maybe a different direction, well, we may have to make some concessions on what we want. And, or, like, I'm at this place in my career now, like, I'll talk to people out of it. The motivation is, it doesn't make sense financially. And you're not gonna get exactly what you want. But I'm about, coming up with creative solutions. But it has, you have to start with having a deep understanding of what they want. And encourage them to drink. That's starting, because then you can take the conversation from there, a lot of different directions. And it may end up then, hey, it sounds to me like right now may not be the best time for you to do it, but at least you can help educate them too. And maybe dispel, because maybe in their mind, they're thinking rates are gonna go back down to 3%. Like, oh my gosh, if they get it before, I think that would. So let's take a look at what the cost of that house is today, current interest rate. Let's look at maybe if we're going to predict they might have go in buy, what it could be. But then let's also take a look at how home values are appreciated. So if we wait 5 years for rates to hit 4, and they do. What are you gonna pay for that home 5 years from now? Because I think that's where it's starting to make sense for them to do something now as opposed to later.
Yeah.
Because the cost of that house, values aren't, what's the other thing that we haven't talked about this market, values aren't going down. We do one thing that rates are up, the values are going
Right.
down,
Yeah.
but they're not going down because interest rates. Until the market produces enough inventory for things to balance itself out, and going back to the buyer's market, which isn't happening, it's not gonna happen anytime soon. Because that's why every position.
I think that, like, two different things. One is you spoke on like, you know, we do have a conversation, maybe we could say it doesn't really make sense for you at this time. I think that you become more trustworthy in that moment.
You
And one thing that you had said, Aaron, you're talking about, like, your personal home is like, oh, like, if I could have bought what I want 4 years ago, like, I'm looking back and thinking, oh, and I think that would be the conversation, right? Like, okay, so if I don't know if you.
But even that home, the lower interest rate back then would be worth the price today. I would pay more, even if I could get that interest rate, my payment would still be higher because of the depreciation of the last
Right.
2 years.
Right, and I think that the conversation then becomes, you know, I've seen this thing on like, oh, I wish I would have bought a house in like 08 or 09, but like, I was in middle school, like, like, that's kind of the joke, like, around, like, the people my age, and it's like, oh, kicking myself, why did I have to be in middle school? But I've heard those, I've heard people walk through homes and been like, if I could have bought this house when I saw it for sale 20 years ago for what it's going now. And so I think that every few years we do that, right? We're like, okay, when I bought my first house, had I just been able to buy two, then I would have a rental or whatever. And we do this every few years. And so then knowing that that's the position that you are going to be in, to say about something today, worst case scenario, 4 years down the road, you have, it's appreciated and maybe you've got a free buy.
Yeah.
Like that, so at least you're not fooling yourself because your value is still gonna be higher.
No, you're right. I mean, but here's the main point, is we need to be having these conversations. So that we can establish where they're at in their life. And maybe we are talking about doing things today, that just means that there's an opportunity for a future business, as long as we continue to nurture and maintain that relationship. But it's back to real estate stuff next forward, and we have to be consistently systematic with everybody that's in our database. And continue to build that database.
Hey, Aaron,
Yes.
I think it's on my first girl, but that one. She was a builder of palatial homes, you know that, Bill Graham? So I had a conversation with her when some big changes happened. She took her spec home from 400 to 300,000. She said some of the rich people were not being able to get that house funded because of the tightening of the credit at the time. So I thought it was interesting that was the other side of it too. You might not be able to buy as much home.
Yeah. That's kind of humble, right? Like, they have to, they're buying a $400,000 house by $300,000. First world problems. It's like to hear that come out of somebody's mouth, it's like, oh man, got it rough, but anyhow, anything you guys would like to add to this? I think we're trying to. We started. Awesome. So, homework, if you haven't read it, like, read Tactic 4. Like, there's so much, it's just so relevant to where we're at, not only in today's market, but just this time of the year, February. Tara put, trying to go in the holidays, because we started consistently coming in here and doing our calls together, at the end of October. So I think it's just, we're starting to build a pipeline, and just by consistently doing those activities, and we're not doing conversations today, we started off 5. The goals have 5 conversations today, now, first year, now it's 10. And so, if anybody wants to show up and do that with us, we're more than welcome. So.
Is that every day?
It wasn't today because we had, my kids had 2 hours away.
Okay. Yeah.
And, of course, they went on break, but yes, so tomorrow we'll be here, Thursday and Friday.
That's an 8 to 10 or what, 8 to 12.
I'm here at 8, I'm here to dump the kids off, but we don't start, we huddle, we're doing scripted role play 9 to 9:30, and then 9:30 to 12:30, we're calls. So, there you go. There's your messaging, and there's the problems we can be solving. I think to find success in this market, we can solve these problems for the people that know us, like us, trust us, so we're gonna get some opportunity to do it. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.